And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Steve Calderon, who writes, In the Heights opened below, well, actually it's well below, opened below expectations with $11.4 million in its opening weekend, losing out on the number one spot to A Quiet Place 2, which, by the way, Rob, Quiet Place is still chugging along and making money, man. It's crossed the $200 million mark worldwide already.
Oh, yeah.
The musical was expected to make was expected to make somewhere around $24 million this weekend. The musical was expected to make $20 million this weekend. It received a strong positive 96% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and an A rating on CinemaScore. HBO Max can't be the main reason behind the movie's disappointing opening. What other reasons do you think happened? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Steve. And yeah, look, first thing I want to say about In the Heights. The movie is wonderful. It's a wonderful movie. And it's a movie I didn't have much interest in. I mean, I like Lin-Manuel Miranda very much. And because I love Hamilton. I'm a huge Hamilton freak. Not as much of a Hamilton freak as my wife is, but I was a big fan of Hamilton. And so In the Heights is coming out. I go to see it. I loved it. I think it's fantastic. I think most people, like you said, the CinemaScore, which is from the audience, the CinemaScore has gotten an A. I think it's an A+ kind of movie. Not that it's a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a wonderful, heartfelt, puts a smile on your face, it puts a song in your heart. It is a wonderful, wonderful little movie, and I enjoyed it a great deal. However, it was not able to live up to any box office and get anybody out to see it. This comes to us from the folks over at Cinema Blend who write, going into the weekend, In the Heights was pegged as opening in the number one spot with a $24 million opening weekend. However, the film would get off to a slow start with a soft $5 million haul on Friday, with expectations then being adjusted for a weekend haul of $15 million. But now, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the film is expected to finish out its first weekend with a domestic total of $11.4 million, which places it in the number 2 spot behind Quiet Place 2, which has already been out for a number of weeks. So the question becomes, why? Why did In the Heights, a movie that is brilliant, it's a wonderful film, a movie that's got, Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of Hamilton, why did it go? Now, the first place a lot of people want to look at, understandably so, is HBO and HBO Max, because they put it out day and date on HBO Max. But as certain outlets like Variety and others are pointing out, it did not do super well on HBO Max either, so you can't really point at HBO Max. Not to mention, things like Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat. I mean, they were able to open and have significant numbers, and they opened on HBO Max at the same time too. They would have done better if they hadn't launched them on HBO Max. But you can't really point to HBO Max as being the key reason. Is it one of the reasons? I think so. Obviously, I think that's part of it. That's part of the rationale there. But I also believe there's a couple of other things at play here, Rob, going on. So what I want to do, if I can find it here, give me 1 second. Let's jump into the Campea classroom for just a moment, shall we? And let's look at, In the Heights, or in this case, In the Depths. In the depths, the box office depths, Rob. What's the problem? Why did In the Heights, a movie that is so good, end up doing so badly? Well, first thing I want to say, not the most important reason, but is the big HBO Max thing. Releasing day and date on HBO Max is going to hurt. It's not the main thing behind it, but it didn't help. And it certainly took away some of the box office revenue it could have made. So that's one of them. The second thing is this, and we talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago, Rob, but I think this really came into play. No star power. The film had no star power. Let's put it this way. If you're somebody who's not a big musical theater person, because let's face it, Rob, everybody who's a big musical theater person, they were going to go see this movie no matter what.
Yep.
So if you're not a big musical theater person and you're looking for that hook, what's going to hook me and bring me into it? Oftentimes it's the star. Look at Greatest Showman. You got Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, on and on. You got really Zendaya's in there. There's a lot there to hook people, even if they're not big into musicals. But this had no star power. Again, not to say that the people in the movie weren't great. they were. I don't know the name of the kid who was the lead guy in it. Rob, I don't remember his name, but he was great.
Yeah.
But people watched the trailers and nobody knew who he was. The odds are, other than Jimmy Smits, people watched the trailers and they had no idea who anybody in the movie was. So I think one of the things, besides HBO Max, I also think one of the things is that it had no star power. Another thing that I think led to it is simply this. They were not good trailers. Before this movie opened, I said, the only reason I'm going to go see this is because my wife wants to see it desperately. And so I'm going with my wife to see it, but the trailers have not hooked me. Like there's nothing like, Rob, I will often complain when a trailer comes out and they don't even give us a slightest hint, the slightest hint of what's going on. They don't give us the slightest hint about, what's the story of this thing. I had no idea what the story of this thing was at all. No idea what the story of this movie was. I had no idea about what the basic gist of it was. I just know that, hey, there's this community called Washington Heights, and boy, we love to sing and dance. That's all I got from the trailers. And so if it wasn't for Anne going, I probably wouldn't have went, but I did. So we went to go there and see it. The other thing I would point out is, and this is connected to point 3 about poor trailers, but is this. What's the conflict? The conflict, Rob, is the core of any story. Whether it's man versus man, man versus monster, man versus nature, man versus the elements, or man versus himself. There has to be at the base of anything like this, there has to be, what's the conflict? And you've got to show that in the trailer. You got to give people an idea about what is it in the trailer, and they just never did. And so I would suggest that the 4 reasons, and there's no one thing that did it, but I think it's a big accumulation, is number 1, HBO Max hurt it. I think no star power hurt it. Again, that's not none of these are the lone single magic bullet that did the job, but it's an accumulation. The HBO Max release, no star power, poor trailers, and they never gave a hint about what was the conflict, because that's normally in your marketing the thing that gets people hooked in. And none of that was there. Anyway, Rob, you've seen now that In the Heights did not do so well at the box office. You've seen my reasons about why I think they didn't work out so well. Why didn't In the Heights work?
Well, I think you make some really good points, but I would say that ultimately, I think it was not well marketed.
And we've lost Rob's audio. Give me 1 second to see if we can get it back. Can you say something there, Rob?
Hello, John. Can you hear me?
And your audio's gone out completely. I don't know why. Give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can get this fixed here. Sorry for this, guys. Every once in a while, something like this will happen.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't know why, John.
You should be coming out. Oh, you guys are saying you can hear him. Okay, everybody is saying they can hear him, except I'm the only one that can't hear him.
Oh, no.
Okay, it's all set. We're all fixed now. Let's get back to it now. Okay, Rob, why did In the Heights not do so well?
Well, what I was going to say is I really agreed with your points, but I really think it ultimately came down to marketing. Because, I was interested in seeing this. You've got Lin-Manuel Miranda coming off of Hamilton being involved in this project. And I felt like there was almost no marketing for this movie at all. Like, this is the kind of movie that they should have saturated us with, even on social media. I mean, you've got, obviously, there's all this talk now about diversity. You've got a really interesting multi-ethnic cast. It's a musical. It's exciting. I mean, it's the kind of thing, it's buoyant, and I would assume it's relatively happy. And it's kind of like an antidote for where we've been for the last year and a half. And yet, I mean, I had no sense of this movie coming out, no urgency of it, and I wanted to see it. I haven't seen it yet, but because I want to see it theatrically. And it felt like it had no impact, I felt, opening up. And I found that to be strange, because they should have leaned into the fact that this movie is going to put a smile on your face. and that it has a great story to tell. It's something that we needed to hear, as a people. It's something that helps us, come out from the doldrums of the pandemic, see people in the streets dancing and singing, and they didn't do any of that. And I feel it was a complete failure of marketing. I really do.
Yeah.
And of course, you point out that there's no conflict, but I would say that's all part of it. I mean, this film, they should have been really pushing this movie for the last 6 months, and they really weren't. Not the way I thought it should have been pushed.
Yeah, I think probably the marketing is the main thing, lack of conflict, relatively poor trailers. I think star power has something to do with it as well. I think, I don't know who you could have had in the lead. I think this kid was great. He was great, and the movie is great. But I can't say I'm terribly surprised to hear that it didn't actually do all that well. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? So In the Heights comes out, makes far less than a number of other movies are making, less than half of what they were projecting. What do you think the core culprit is? Was it the trailers? Was there no star power? Was it HBO Max? Was it something else that we're not considering? What do you guys think about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.